All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is my good buddy Tim Karr. Tim is the campaign director at Free Press, which you can find at freepress.net. You can also follow him on Twitter at Tim Karr. Tim, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Hi, Matt. It's always good to be with you.
All right, so Tim, right now, Verizon, the gigantic media conglomerate Verizon, is actually suing the FCC over net neutrality. Describe to us what's going on in that case and how important it actually is.
Sure. The FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, has long saw as one of its many responsibilities to provide some oversight of the Internet, in particular protecting consumers on the Internet. And one of the things that it did in 2010 is that it passed a ruling called the Open Internet Order. And the Open Internet Order was the FCC's best effort. I'm saying that somewhat sarcastically. There was their best effort to protect this principle called net neutrality. Net neutrality obviously lets users have control over where they go, what they do online. And as soon as that ruling was passed in 2010, Verizon, as you've noted, a very powerful company that provides internet access to millions of people, filed suit. And they said the FCC doesn't have the authority to do this, and they're regulating the internet. When in fact what they're doing is trying to regulate internet service providers. There's a difference. The internet is a network of people sharing content. Internet service providers are companies that provide access for a lot of those people. But unfortunately, Verizon thinks that it by providing access, therefore it owns the internet. So so that case, after 3 years, finally went to oral arguments, federal appeals court, which in Washington D.C., which is the second highest court of the land, and where attorneys for Verizon came forward and they argued that the FCC lacked the authority to do this, and that in one of the first real public admissions said, indeed, what we hope to do, absent regulations like this, is start to privilege content, give priority to certain websites and services that pay us more money, while relegating the rest of you websites and services to the digital back road. And what essentially they were proposing in their oral arguments was to break the fundamental open architecture of the internet so that they can start giving special favors to their corporate allies. And in fact, what they're proposing is this kind of transformation of the internet from something that is controlled by end users, people who go online and connect with everyone else, to something that is controlled by a central gatekeeper. It's a model that is much more akin to cable television, where our remote control only gives us the illusion of control, as opposed to the internet, where millions and millions of types of content are merely a mouse click away.
Essentially, what they want to do is say, for this amount of money, you're going to also speeding up the content for their corporate partners. Be it they want to put Netflix on the fast lane or Hulu on the fast lane or whatever that is, or whatever they choose. Or if they're not part, Verizon is owned by CBS or Verizon owns CBS or one of the two. They would say, well, we want NBC's content to go on the slow lane while all the CBS content goes on the fast lane. So that's one possibility of what they could do. Also, what they could do is actually do in their internet pricing, try to do tiers of saying, well, this tier gets you Netflix, this tier gets you Hulu, this, and actually having different pricing plans out within their actual plans themselves. That's a possibility of what they could actually be going out to actually doing, instead of having an open internet, actually charging, which access you get as part of a larger internet plan.
Well, absent the open internet order, if that gets thrown out by the court, they can basically do anything. And one of the arguments that Verizon has made, which has shades of Citizens United, they said that as a corporation, Verizon has the First Amendment right to edit the internet.
Ooh.
And so that was part of their legal argument. And when I say edit, think block, censor, degrade sites, throttle sites. What they're saying is that they have the First Amendment right, basically, to decide what goes where on the Internet. Now, that was never the intention of the Internet founders. The Internet founders created this network, was built around this networking principle called the end-to-end principle. And the end-to-end principle basically says that all decision-making and all intelligence in this network resides at the edges with end users. And in the middle of that network, you simply had a conduit and a conduit provider that connected us with everyone else who was online. And it was this networking idea that actually had very democratic political ramifications because it created this network where all ideas had equal merit, and even all entrepreneurs can go on there with a good idea, and they could challenge some of the biggest companies in the world and beat them. And of course, the big companies like Verizon don't like that. They would rather have a network where they're positioned in the middle, and they're acting as gatekeepers, and they're charging. They're creating a marketplace saying, so you want to use Google's search engine instead of Yahoo's search engine? Well, Google, you're going to have to pay. We can make more money. And one of the things that is important to note is that they do make a ton of money from just acting as a conduit. The companies like Comcast and AT&T and Verizon make massive profit margins just simply selling us access to the Internet. Now, we may pay different rates. You may have a DSL connection, or you may have a cable connection, or you may have a Fios connection if you're lucky enough to be in one of those communities, and you pay a different rate based on the speed. But once you get online, where you go and what you do is your decision to make alone. And they have made a lot of money from just acting as a conduit, connecting us to everyone else. But they're looking at the future, and they're saying, we want to make more money. How do we make more money from the Internet? Well, you make more money by being more than a conduit. You actually control what channels your users get access to, and you make those sites and services pay you money in order to be first in line, to be, to have them choose Google because it works better over Yahoo because you have these financial relationships. That's a somewhat long-winded explanation, but essentially what that means is that you're breaking that open architecture. You're breaking that end-to-end principle in a way that destroys the open Internet as we know it.